Okay, good afternoon. I am Alfonso Ramirez, Director of Behavioral Health Equity and Community Partnership for the Oregon Health Authority, and I will be assisting with facilitating for this Measure 110 subcommittee meeting. Today's agenda, we will be voting for entities in Clatsop County, Klamath County, and Wallowa County. The Oversight and Accountability Council welcomes and encourages community input. Members of the public are invited to submit public comments or get on our interested parties email list by emailing oha.measure110@dhsoha.state.or.us. The email address and more information about the council can be found on the Measure 110 OAC website. For more information or support with community engagement, contact Jessica Carroll. And you can contact her at jessica.a.carroll@dhsoha.state.or.us. OAC members have asked that OHA and other staff who are present in the meeting space introduce themselves in the chat. Please share your role with the agency, and if you are a subject matter expert, your area of expertise. Because this is a voting subcommittee, we will be asking for subcommittee members to declare any conflicts of interest that they may have. We will request these declarations before each full county. So if you would like to declare a conflict for the entire county, you may do so then. Additionally, we will be asking for potential or actual conflict, any conflicts when prompted by the facilitator. Please remember that if you do declare an actual conflict of interest, we ask that you mute your microphone and turn off your camera. We will let you know in the chat when it is time for you to return. If you have a potential conflict, you may remain in the room and vote after you declare it. So we're going to take a roll right now.
All right. So, good morning, everyone. And we're going to start off from the top. And I think Morgan.
Hi, hello.
Good morning. I also see Zeb. Good morning. We also have Nicole.
I am here.
Oh, yes. And we also have Sabrina.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good to see you. And we also will have another council member, Blue, arriving shortly. And I'll turn it back over to you. We have met quorum before.
All right, thanks, Walter. The first county that we will be considering is Clatsop County. If you have a conflict of interest with the entirety of Clatsop County, please declare it now. All right, hearing none, the first organization that you will be considering is Boulder Care. If you have a conflict of interest with Boulder Care, please declare it now. Okay, hearing none, Boulder Care is applying for SUD treatment, peer support, and harm reduction services for Clatsop County. You can find their rubrics in the Clatsop County workbook under the organization, under the tabs Boulder Care 1 and Boulder Care 2. The first recommendation was possibly, the second recommendation was partial. And I'll turn it over to the subcommittee for discussion or vote. And there is a question, Nicole.
Yes, I did not receive Clatsop County. I only have Marion, Columbia, and Lynn County for my workbooks.
Can someone confirm whether she received them on the committee?
Hey, Nicole, real quick question. Those were sent out on Tuesday, and then there were some sent out so that you should have two emails. One that was sent out on Tuesday, and that's for today's meeting, and then the one that was sent out after that for tomorrow's meeting.
Oh my, okay, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. I apologize. I didn't, okay, sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Cool. So just let us know if you have those. And if not, we can send them to you now. But we'll give you a second to look for them.
No, I have them. I'll
Okay.
review them as we go on. I just didn't catch that email in my
Okay.
emails I get. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
And there's a question from Sabrina.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Jessica if you can please send out an email talking about the parking lotted emails and that we're gonna review them tomorrow. In which order on the agenda, please?
Yeah, we're gonna get a revised agenda out to you. Absolutely.
All right, so at this time, we're turning it over to the subcommittee for discussion or vote.
Well, based on the rubrics, if there's no discussion, I'd like to move to not fund Boulder Care. Take a motion.
I second that.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll turn it over to Walter for the vote.
I will actually be covering the vote for this one
sorry,
at least. That's okay. We're working on things behind the scenes over here. I apologize. And in that process, I missed the motion. So could you all please repeat that?
I'd like to make a motion to not fund Boulder Care for Clatsop County.
Thank you.
And Sydney, I second that.
Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, so moving on to the vote to not fund Boulder Care in Clatsop County. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes. I agree with the motion.
Thanks. Nicole?
I vote yes to not fund Boulder Care.
Thank you, Nicole. Sabrina?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Sabrina. And Zep?
I vote yes.
And just to make sure, we are still missing Blue, Leticia, and Henry. Yes. All right. Vote passes with 4 yes votes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sydney. The next organization that we will be considering is Iron Tribe Network. If you have a conflict of interest with Iron Tribe Network, please declare it now. Okay, hearing none. Iron Tribe Network is applying to provide housing services for Clatsop County. You can find the rubrics in the Clatsop County workbook under the Iron Tribe 1 and Iron Tribe 2 tabs. The first reviewer had a recommendation of possibly, the second reviewer had a recommendation of yes. I'll now turn it over to the subcommittee for discussion or votes.
I just want to point out, one of the reviewers did say that they were they were unsure about the ability for them to provide culturally and diverse services in one of their recommendations in the budget line. Or, excuse me, not in the budget line, but at the very top of the rubric. And that's on number 11G.
So I have my rubric pulled up from when I evaluated this application. And they did specifically talk about bilingual staff for Spanish speakers and having a translator option for speakers of other languages. You know, language isn't necessarily cultural specificity, but I did want to say that.
I'd just like to mention that under housing services, the evaluator said housing resources in Clatsop County are very minimal. And then I think it's 486C, applicant does not use a housing first model. It also appears that individuals who can access the housing would need to be involved with ODHS and or Clatsop County Drug Court. So I could foresee that being a barrier. For those who need housing, being that they are very minimal and limited to housing.
Yeah. So this is, you know, abstinence based, sort of 12-step based. So when I reviewed it, some of the thoughts that I had were, you know, clearly it's a recovery model, but we need to consider it sort of in conjunction with the other asks in the county. Our tribe applied to multiple counties. This one seemed to be sort of the least strong, just when considered, though there is a very high need here. But if we were to fund it, again, going back to the conversation that we had last week, there's an issue here with the 12-step mandate sort of thing. But I mean, a lot of people prefer recovery housing, so I'm not faulting them for that at all. And
I still want, sorry, Morgan, were you gonna go? Go.
I was just, how it says like the ODHS or Clatsop Drug Court, I feel like that was like historically because I'm confused, the 10th, because there's a typo, it says applicant will provided. And it's possible that I was reviewing so many that I overlooked that, because that is a serious thing. Like if they're only providing services to that narrow demographic, that's not in alignment, right?
My other question was going to be, even if we did fund them, how would they make their services culturally diverse to be in alignment with ballot measure 110 and the chapter 944 rules? My hand's still up, but anyways, another thing is because on the other rubric, it says abstinency is required to be a part of the housing.
You know, to me, I feel like housing is important, and all spectrums of housing are important. You know, there is some concerns with the restrictiveness of who is able to access the housing. And then like what you brought up, Sabrina, the cultural aspect of it. I mean, if we did choose to fund this thing, it'd have to be contingent upon looking to be more accessible, at least move towards more accessibility. In terms of this application right here, there's definitely, it's lacking in this county, I think. So anyway, that's what I was thinking about it.
One thing I like about it is in the gender affirming, all inclusive boxes on the both of the rubric cubes, there was no negative comments in that area.
I would vote to fund them. That's how I voted when I read the rubric with caveats about the inclusivity.
And in 15D, it also talks about how in Clatsop County, there is little to no recovery housing and no family recovery housing. So it definitely looks like there is a need.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, because of that, there's very high need in this county. And they did say that they have bilingual staff, so I would vote to fund them.
I'm comfortable with that as well, just with the modifications that we already discussed, but that would come out in the contract period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm cool too. Someone want to make a motion?
I don't know, Nicole, does someone?
I don't know what the modifications are, so what everyone wants.
I mean, it's mostly contracting, right? Just an eye towards their inclusivity, but it'll come out because they have to be in alignment with the rules and everything. So I don't think we need to say anything in the motion other than, right? Or do we? Zeb?
I think that we're good. I think you guys are right.
So it's totally standard, nothing special in the motion, just cookie cutter. Nicole.
I make a motion to fund Iron Tribe in Clatsop County.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? All right, hand it over to Walter.
Hey, all right, motion on the table to fund Iron Tribe, Clatsop County, and Morgan. How do you vote?
I vote yes to fund.
Okay. And Nicole?
I vote yes to fund.
Okay. All right. Sabrina?
I vote yes.
Okay. Zeb?
Yes.
Okay. And Blue?
I vote yes.
Okay. 5 yes votes to fund Iron Tribe, Clatsop County. Back over to you, Alfonso.
All right, thank you. The next organization that we will be considering is Morrison Child and Family Services. If you have a conflict with Morrison, please declare it now. All right, hearing none, Morrison Child and Family Services is applying for peer support services for Clatsop County. You can find their rubrics in the Clatsop County workbook under the Morrison 1 and Morrison 2 tabs. The first reviewer had a recommendation of no. The second reviewer had a recommendation of yes. I will now turn it over to the subcommittee for discussion or vote.
Okay, so I could offer some framing context here. This is similar to another application that we saw in a previous county where their services are so important and so needed, and yet not totally in alignment with Measure 110 because of how narrow the people who could access this are. They already have to be involved with DHS. They have to have a child and family services case open. And at that point, this steps in.
And just to confirm, are they just applying? Wait, they're applying for, is that peer support?
Yes, it's just peer support.
Okay.
In one of the boxes, it does state that you have to have a substance use disorder to be able to access those services.
Yeah, but you have to also already be in a courtroom in front of a judge with them threatening to take your kids away. But super critically, this was an access to care grantee. So we already determined previously that despite that, they were eligible.
But we're not weighing on that today though, right? We're just doing the rubrics.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like this is similar to Matt in jails where it is a very specific population, but it's also folks that probably really need all the support they can get. And I printed out the rubric, so I don't know, it's right above the budget. There's a comment that one of their strategic goals is to try to retain staff of color and provide them with extra support so that they can do their job while working with BIPOC clients. So I feel like that's also pretty solid and in alignment with Measure 110.
I mean, the service on a whole sounds phenomenal, really. It's a really strong and very much needed, especially because of how we know how like Child and Family Services disproportionately impacts specifically women of color, especially of lower socioeconomic status. So this, because of that, is highly aligned with our mission and our values.
I would vote to fund this.
Yeah, I would be totally comfortable with that. I just didn't know how people were going to approach it because of how people, access the service from the beginning. But if you're comfortable with that, this is clearly an important service. I support it.
It does say the budget's pretty reasonable as well, that they're not asking for a ton. I didn't look in detail at the budget, but that same row where they talk about right above the budget section, on the far right, it does say they're just kind of asking for a full-time parent mentor and then partial staff hours and staff trainings, and a couple other costs.
I'd like to make a motion to fund this application for Morrison Child and Family Services in Clatsop County.
I'll second that.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, we'll send it to Walter for a vote.
All right. Motion. All right. Motion to fund Morrison Child and Family Services, Clatsop County. Morgan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Nicole?
Yes.
Sabrina?
I'm conflicted, so I will abstain.
Okay. Zeb?
Yes.
Okay. Blue?
Yes.
Okay. And that passes with 4 yes votes and 1 abstention. Now, turn it back over to you, Alfonso.
All right, thank you. The next organization that you will be considering is Clatsop Behavioral Health Care. If you have a conflict of interest with Clatsop Behavioral Health Care, please declare it now. All right, hearing none, Clatsop Behavioral Health Care is applying to provide SUD treatment, peer support, housing, harm reduction, and supported employment services for Clatsop County. You can find the rubrics in the Clatsop County workbook under the Clatsop BH1 and Clatsop BH2 tabs. Both of the reviewers had a recommendation of yes. And I'll turn it over to the subcommittee for discussion or vote.
Well, one of the rubrics, it states that they have a diverse workforce. That's in alignment with measure 110.
I also saw that they've made a commitment to become an anti-racist organization, and that a lot of their staff have lived experience, including some of them incarceration. So it definitely feels like they're probably reflective of the people that they're serving.
I'd like to make a motion to fund this application.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll turn it over to Walter.
All right. Motion to fund there we go. Yep, right there. Clatsop County, motion to fund behavioral health. How do you vote, Morgan?
Yes.
Okay. Nicole?
Yes.
Okay. Sabrina?
Yes.
Okay. Zeb?
Yes.
Okay. Blue?
Abstain. I did not have enough time to thoroughly review this one.
Okay. And that vote passes with 4 yes, 1 abstentions for Clatsop County Behavioral Health to fund. Back over to you, Alfonso.
All right, thank you. The next organization that you'll be considering is Clatsop Community Action. If you have a conflict of interest with Clatsop Community Action, please declare it now. All right, hearing none, Clatsop Community Action is applying to provide housing services for Clatsop County. You can find the rubrics in the Clatsop County workbook under the tabs Clatsop CA1 and Clatsop CA2. The recommendations were, the first one was yes, and the second reviewer had a recommendation of no. I'll now turn it over to the subcommittee for discussion or vote.
So I like that this organization uses a housing first model. I was just a little confused when we list the type of housing and it says that there's 2-bedroom housing for 25 households. And I'm just unclear if that is, if they ran out of other funding and this is just sustaining what they already have, or if this is like adding to what they have. That wasn't very clear to me in terms of what this is funding, if that makes sense.
And Morgan, did you read this application?
So I did. This is another one that applied jointly. And so I don't have an individual rubric for it when I evaluated it. It was all on one RFGA, but now they've been separated out. So I do believe. And so I don't have specific notes about this other than I was going to fund it.
I don't really have any strong like hesitation to fund it, except for in the recommendation for them to clearly outline how they're going to be diverse and reach all people of color.
Yeah, I think that's a great inclusion, and otherwise it's a strong housing first, right, application with a concern there under communities of color, but otherwise inclusive and in alignment with our values. So would that come out in the rules, or do we want to put that into the motion?
You know, I'm looking at one of the rubrics and it does say that they identify as bilingual and bicultural organization and that they continually conduct outreach to BIPOC communities. So I do feel like there are pieces in there that start to address it.
I guess the only thing that I see, and I could be missing it, and if I am missing it, if somebody can point it out to me, I don't see SUD in here. I see mental health, which obviously is a very high priority overall for sure. I'm just not seeing where it says SUD.
I just read it said 90% of people have SUD here. D20 on rubric number 1.
Thank you, Morgan.
Yeah.
I would be comfortable moving forward with this.
My only hesitation and just to be put on the record was that when it comes to contract period, that we decipher what's mental health and what services are going to be funded directly for the people in alignment with the Chapter 944 rules and ballot measure 110, which is people with substance use and substance use disorder.
Yeah. So when we see that repeatedly, that's just because historically, a lot of these organizations receive their referrals from the community mental health organizations. So that's why it's not like 100%, but with our money, they would be out of compliance with the rules if they were using our money on strictly, people with single diagnosis mental health. And so, we'll see that a lot, like, 80% of our clients currently have SUD, but that's because they were getting so many referrals previously from the mental health. But they can't use our money for that, for strict mental health.
I totally understand that, Morgan, but we're also supposed to, in my opinion, I weigh the rubrics on what they put in there for the services that they provide. So I just always want to make sure that's really, really well heard.
Yeah. And then what about the concern that reviewer one had? Or wait. Never mind.
I just wanted to add something that was a little confusing to me, which is, I think, Morgan, you had said this, that they may be applied as a group. And so I can see in one of the rubrics, at least, where they took a lot of information from subsection 2, which talks about a group. And so it starts out by, like, there's a lot of mention of Clatsop Behavioral Healthcare providing emergency mental health services. And that's not necessarily relevant to this particular organization, but it ended up being in the rubric. And sometimes I get, like, when they use a lot of acronyms or whatever, like abbreviations, CCA and CBH, I kind of forget which organization the application is for. But I think that those are those comments that are in the rubric came from that group section, and it doesn't really appear in the housing area in the same way. So I think for me, that made it a little confusing, but that's kind of how I separated it out.
Yeah, each organization only got like a very small portion of this application, right? So like this rubric has been filled out on a more limited basis because different orgs had filled out different parts of it instead of the whole thing being filled out by the one org. Which is why it reads confusing when we're reading it. But I mean, we're good to fund, just with Sabrina's caveat that this is for substance use services and not, right?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to make a motion. What's this called? Clatsop. What's the acronym?
Clatsop Community Action.
Community Action. Okay, I would like to make a motion to fund Clatsop Community Action in Clatsop County fully. Just with the note on Sabrina's point, ensuring that this is going for substance use services.
I second that.
Jessica. Oh, any further discussion? All right, let's have a vote.
Okay. All right. Motion to fund Clatsop Community Action in Clatsop County fully. How do you vote, Morgan?
I vote yes.
Okay. Nicole?
I vote yes.
Sabrina?
I vote yes.
Okay. And Zeb?
Yes.
And Blue?
Yes.
Okay. And that vote passes with 5 to fund Clatsop Community Action in Clatsop County. Back over to you, Alfonso.
All right, thank you. Jessica.
Yeah, sorry, I raised my hand too fast. I didn't want to interrupt the vote. But I do just want to point out that just so everyone knows, and this is a public meeting, so everyone watching knows that all Measure 110 funds are slated to be used for SUD services. That will be in contract, right? That will be in contract. That will be and in the contract administration phase, right? All of that financial reporting. I just want, because I know that there's a lot of I just want to let y'all know that you don't necessarily need to put that in a motion, right? I know that you may choose to, and that's fine. I just want to let you know that it is very clear that Measure 110 funds by statute and by rule, right? So you have both, are to be used for SUD services or for folks who are utilizing SUD services. Blue?
That just kind of made me think about we briefly went over what data we want collected, and I know we're gonna dig into it as a full council, but I think that might be one of the data points that would be important, is that they're reporting back the percentages of people that use substances that they're serving. Just as a side note, that might be another way for us to capture it on the other end.
Thank you, Blue. And yes, we're going to dig into data more at the next OAC meeting. And so yeah, but duly noted. Sabrina.
Yeah, and I just feel comfortable saying it because I want the people that are watching to understand, like, when we're bringing up community mental health over, when we're just talking about the rubrics, that we are not grading them on that, we're grading them on the other services they provide. So they feel comfortable knowing that we're making the best choice. Or not feel comfortable, at least we're going down those guidelines.
Yeah, and you're being transparent, and that's fantastic. I just wanted to let you know, as far as the motion goes, you don't necessarily need to add it to the motion, but saying it as much, say it as much as you want, loud and clear. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Sabrina.
All right, thank you, Jessica. The next organization that we will be considering is Clatsop County Public Health. If you have a conflict of interest with Clatsop County Public Health, please state it now. All right, hearing none, Clatsop County Public Health is applying to provide harm reduction services for Clatsop County. You can find the rubrics in the Clatsop PH1 and Clatsop PH2 tabs. Both reviewers had a recommendation of yes. I will now turn it over to the subcommittee for discussion or a vote.
So it looks like this is a pretty comprehensive harm reduction program. And one note that I did see in one of the rubrics was just that they haven't really described their own staff in terms of their ability to provide culturally specific services or maybe hire a diverse staff. And so that was one of the modifications that was recommended for this organization.
And thank you, Blue, for pointing that out. And yeah, my take on it too. I mean, as a positive for this application is the use of Prime Plus workers. And if Blue believes this is a good application, I 100% agree with her.
That's the nicest thing I've heard all day. Thank you. Yeah, it does seem like also the budget is for hiring one staff and then the rest is really supplies as well. So it sounds like it's pretty, they do get other funding and they're just looking to expand. That looks pretty solid to me.
I would like to put a motion on the table if there's no more further discussion to fund. I got to look back at the acronyms because I'll let somebody else make the motion.
It's
Go ahead. It's Clatsop County Public Health, right?
yes.
Okay.
Clatsop County Public Health.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion to fund Clatsop County Public Health. Do we need to do any notes about like their intents to hire diverse staff? I'll see what other people think. Or is it good just like that?
Lou, I think it's good like that because I think they will address it in the contract period now, right?
Sounds good. All right, so I'm just going to clarify my motion is to fund Clatsop County Public Health. Yes, Clatsop County Public Health.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll turn it over to vote.
Okay. All right, motion to fund Clatsop County Public Health. Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Nicole? Nicole, are you there? Okay, Sabrina?
I vote yes.
Okay. Zeb?
Yes.
Okay. Blue?
Yes.
Okay.
Walter, I'm here. I apologize. I couldn't find the talk button.
No worries. How do you
I
vote?
vote yes.
All right. The motion passes with 5 to fund Clatsop County Public Health. Back over to you, Alfonso.
All right, thanks, Walter. The next organization that you will be considering is Helping Hands Reentry and Outreach. If you have a conflict of interest with Helping Hands Reentry and Outreach, please declare it now. All right, hearing none, Helping Hands Reentry and Outreach is applying to provide housing services for Clatsop County. You can find their rubrics in the Clatsop County workbook under the Helping Hands 1 and Helping Hands 2 tabs. The recommendations were both yes for both reviewers. I will now turn it over to the subcommittee for discussion and vote.
So I found this a little confusing. They say that they are not housing first, but they are a shelter first approach. And that feels a little confusing. It does say that they offer emergency shelter, but it's not clear whether or not the emergency shelter that they offer has a housing first approach.
And my comment would be around the gender affirming care. I apologize, I only have one screen, so I can't toggle back and forth. But on one of the rubrics, it says that there's no comment in the negative section stating that they have it figured out. And on the second rubric, it does state that there is an issue with it. And I can pull that up for you. 1 second. It does not state how they create a safe and welcoming space and community living for gender inclusivity. And so that would just be something I would like to address her. And another thing, I apologize, is their outreach and their engagement was not, could use a little help.
Just to piggyback on what Sabrina said, I did also see a note that there was a specific concern that even though they said they didn't need help for all gender identities, they didn't explain how they create a safe environment when they have a communal living environment. So where people wouldn't have individual rooms. So that is definitely a concern. I'm also seeing in one of the rubrics that it looks as though they have self-identified their housing services as being high barrier and that they serve about 52% of people with a history of substance use.
I saw that too, Blue. Thanks for pointing that out too. And according to the, this rubric, it talks about how they've been providing emergency shelter and transitional housing for 19 years, and they have a network of partners who they work with, and that they've been providing services for free to individuals. So it looks like they have a history of doing this work. As long as everything is in alignment with measure 110 values and purposes, I would be comfortable moving forward funding this organization.
I would feel comfortable too.
I think we should maybe get clarification on how they house people with different gender identities. Maybe that would be my only thought or concern.
I'm 100% in agreement with that, Blue.
Blue, what if we modified the rules instead? Like, so that people just couldn't get our money unless they were going to do that, instead of
It's
like,
actually, sorry, Morgan, but it is actually in the rules.
oh, well then they would be out of
Okay.
compliance. So we
Okay.
have to.
That sounds better than changing the rules after giving out funding. So, oh, I see a cat and Jessica's hand.
Yeah, it's my little shark cat. Her tail goes like this and then like this. Yes, it is in the rules. And also you all are requiring or all organizations to have policies and procedures regarding culturally specific and linguistically appropriate services and gender affirming care and services. So that is in the RFGA that you all put out, that they're going to have to provide their policies and to ensure that there's the compliance part to ensure that they are following them. So y'all are right on your thinking.
So I would like to put a motion on the table to fund Helping Hands. And then the note would just be for OHA. That would be our concern around gender affirming care, I would assume. So I'll put my motion on the table, which is to fund Helping Hands.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Okay, hand it over to Walter for the vote.
Okay. Motions on the table to fund Helping Hands Reentry Outreach in Clatsop County. And Morgan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Nicole?
Yes.
Okay. Sabrina?
Yes.
Okay. Zep?
Yes.
All right. Blue?
Yes.
Okay. That motion passes with 5 to fund Helping Hands Reentry Outreach, Clatsop County. Turning back over to you, Alfonso.
Okay, we have one more to go for Clatsop County, but it is 10:24. Would the subcommittee like to take a 5-minute break?
Yes.
All right, let's do that, and we'll be back at 10:30. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started in just a few seconds. If you are here, if you could give us a thumbs up. We got Morgan back. We have Sabrina. Blue is here. Zeb is here. And Nicole is here. All right. And just a reminder that we are still on Clatsop County. The next organization that we will be considering is Providence Seaside Hospital Foundation. If you have a conflict of interest with Providence Seaside HOSP Foundation, please declare it now. Okay, hearing none, Providence Seaside has applied to provide peer support and harm reduction services for Clatsop County. You can find the rubrics in the Clatsop County workbook under the Providence 1 and Providence 2 tabs. Recommendations from both reviewers was yes. And I'll now turn it over to the subcommittee for discussion or a vote.
Can you say the name again? I printed everything out, and so I think I have the right ones. I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, it's Providence Seaside HOSP Foundation. And yeah, I don't know if it's, I imagine it's hospital. Does that help?
It does. One of my rubrics says Providence Bob program at the top. And I just am not sure if that is the matching rubric, but I'm trying to open the Excel file to double check.
That's right, Blue. It's an outpatient clinic called Bob. It's a part of Providence.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So I noticed in one of the rubrics right at the very top, one of the top rows, I confuse rows and columns, but I meant row. The applicant applied for harm reduction, but confuses peer outreach and engagement with harm reduction. And it does sound like they have a harm reduction philosophy, but it doesn't have a lot of actual specific harm reduction interventions listed. So that would be a concern, but I'm going to keep checking the rubrics to see if there's something else that I missed.
Yeah, on the Providence 1 rubric, it does say that I did not know I was off of mute the whole time. So yeah, one of the rubrics does say that the applicant blurs the line of the definition of harm reduction and peer support. And can you guys hear me? Okay,
We can
Yes.
hear-
So I would feel comfortable funding them for peer support. It really sounds like they do use a harm reduction philosophy, which is something that doesn't always happen with peer support. And I would just not really feel comfortable saying that funding them would be considered funding harm reduction, because I can't see any specific breakdown for harm reduction.
I agree, Blue.
Leticia, I don't know if anyone told you, but we're currently going over Providence Seaside Hospital. I don't know what the tab is called, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Blue, for stating that. We are in Clatsop County, Providence Seaside. So it's the Providence 1 and Providence 2 tab of your Clatsop County workbook. I guess before we go further, Leticia, do you have a conflict of interest with either Clatsop County or Providence Seaside Hospital?
I don't.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So kind of going off of what Blue said earlier, under harm reduction type of services provided, it just lists naloxone distribution. So it does look like everything's wrapped up in their peer services for sure. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to fund this application for peer services.
And I'd like to second that.
Is there any further discussion? All right, we'll turn it over to Walter for a vote.
Right. All right, motion on the table to fund Providence Seaside Hospital Foundation. And we're gonna start with Morgan. How do you vote?
Yes.
All right. Nicole
I vote yes.
and Sabrina,
Yes.
Zeb,
Yes.
okay. Blue,
Yes.
and Leticia.
I'm going to abstain.
Gotcha. All right, vote passes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1 abstention to fund Providence Seaside Hospital Foundation. I'll turn it back over to you, Alfonso.
All right, thank you, Walter. So we are done for Clatsop County for today. We are going to be moving, congratulations, great work. We are going to be moving to Klamath County. So you should have received an email with that county. If you want to take a minute to open that up. And the first one, excuse me 1 second. So the county we're going to be considering next is Klamath. If you have a conflict of interest with the entirety of Klamath County, please declare it now. Okay, hearing none, the first organization that you will be considering is Boulder Care. If you have a conflict of interest with Boulder Care, please declare it now.
I have a conflict of interest with Boulder Care. I'll be muting myself and turning off my camera.
All right, thank you, Leticia. Boulder Care is applying to provide STD treatment, peer support, and harm reduction services for Klamath County. You can find their rubrics in the Klamath County workbook under the Boulder Care 1 and Boulder Care 2 tabs. The recommendations from the first reviewer was to possibly fund, and the second reviewer was not to fund. And I'll turn it over to the subcommittee for discussion or a vote.
I'm not sure if this is appropriate. I think it is, but Jessica or someone, please tell me if it's not. But Sabrina, I think this is a county that you're familiar with, and just in terms of like on the ground services, are you aware of like a lot of on the ground SUD services?
Am I allowed to answer that, Jessica?
This is a good question.
Or okay, then I'll just withdraw it. But I wasn't asking about like specific programs, so I wasn't sure. But that's fine.
I think So I think a general statement about, maybe telehealth here is appropriate, but yeah, definitely not organizations would be a good idea.
No, that's a very valid question, Blue. And just from the way that we kind of been doing things up to now, and just by the scoring of the rubrics of one of the evaluators, I would say in this instance, Boulder Care would not be a good fit.
Thank you, Sabrina. And just so everyone knows, I'm gonna take over for Alfonso here just for a second or a few minutes.
Based on the application and the rubric for Klamath County, I make a motion to not fund Boulder Care.
I second that
second.
motion.
All right, so I don't know who got there first, but I want to say we have a motion from Zeb. Oh, yes, Gina.
Who made the second motion?
Okay, yeah, we'll make sure we get that covered. So Zeb, we have a motion from Zeb not to fund Boulder Care in Klamath County. We have a second from Nicole.
Yeah, both Sabrina and I made a second.
Well, I think I heard Nicole's voice a little first. So we're gonna go with Nicole seconded. So we have a motion from Zeb to not fund. We have a second from Nicole. Any discussion? Hearing none. Walter, you're on.
Right. Motion on the table to not fund Boulder Care in Klamath County. And Morgan, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Okay, thank you. Nicole?
Yes, to not fund.
Okay, thank you. Sabrina?
I vote yes.
Okay. And Zeb?
Yes.
Okay. And Blue?
Yes, not to fund.
Okay. And there's a conflict. And so that passes with 5 not to fund Boulder Care, Klamath County, and with 1 conflict. And turn it back over to you, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Walter. The next organization that we're going to, sorry. Yes, Gina?
Leticia, I can return back to Zoom. Thank you.
Yep. If somebody could drop that in the chat, that would be great. And we will give her just a second in case she wants to declare a conflict here. Oh, we're all inviting Leticia back. Anyone else want to join in? Oops. All right, sorry, I was doing something else. Do we have Leticia back? Leticia.
Is it possible just to get the organization we're going to be reviewing next so I can?
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Fair request. So the next organization that we are going to be evaluating is Max's Mission for Klamath County. I will ask right now, do we have anyone who would like to declare a conflict with Max's Mission in Klamath County? Hearing none, understanding Leticia is not back yet. Do we have quorum? Yes, Walter? Okay, good. All right. So Max's Mission. We have the first recommendation is yes. Second recommendation. Hi, Leticia. We are looking at Max's mission in Klamath County. Would you like to declare a conflict? Perfect, perfect. Okay. So Max's mission, I'm gonna just run through it one more time real quick. Recommendation 1 is yes to fund. Recommendation 2 is partial or yes. They are applying to provide harm reduction services in Klamath County. And you can find their evaluations on the Max's Mission 1 and Max's Mission 2 tab in your Klamath County workbooks. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the committee.
I have a question. I was hoping somebody can answer. Is Max's mission, I can't see it on the rubric here, established in this county already? Or are they looking to move to this county to establish?
From what I can read from the application, Zeb, is that they're like a mobile that's already doing outreach here, but they're looking to establish. And I was one of the evaluators, and I liked their application, except for I would disagree with some modifications because some of the budget lines, as I put in the rubric, was extremely high for the staff they were looking to fund.
Thank you, Sabrina. So both reviewers have recommended for funding, with Sabrina having a little question about the budget. So I'm comfortable moving forward with this as long as Sabrina's concerns are answered.
All budgets will be negotiated during the negotiation phase of the grant process.
I have a question or concern, and it looks like it's the rubric that Leticia filled out, and it's under the diversity, equity, and inclusion rows, and it's talking about their mobile exchange providing services in Medford. Is Medford in Klamath County? Okay.
It's not.
Okay, and I maybe they applied in multiple counties and cut and pasted perhaps. I've seen that in other applications. Okay, I was just a little confused.
Yeah, my guess is they may have cut and pasted. I know they're based out of Medford from reviewing Jackson County. But from their application, it looks like they're looking to have them, like Sabrina was saying, is a mobile unit to provide services in Klamath County.
So there's a harm reduction center mentioned. Is that for Klamath as well?
Lou, from what I can understand is that they were mobile and then they're looking to create a base here in Klamath County and hire the staff to do that. But that's where my budget line concern came in around the amount for the actual building. It was a really, really high. Well, I don't want to say really high. It was a higher ask than I would think for the amount of staff they were going to hire. But I think they're going to try to stand up an organization here from what it said in the application.
Well, that's great because it sounds like they're pretty comprehensive, that they do naloxone and syringe exchange, and that's great.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with funding this application. And
Second.
Yeah, second.
All right, so we have a motion from Zeb on the table to fund Max's mission for Klamath County. And we have a second from Leticia, I believe. Okay, so motion from Zeb, second from Leticia. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to hand it over to Walter.
Okay. Motion to fund Max's mission, Klamath County. Morgan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Nicole?
I vote yes.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. Sabrina?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Sabrina. Zeb?
yes,
Thanks, Zeb. Blue?
Yes.
Thank you, Blue. Leticia?
Yes.
Thank you, Leticia. The vote passes to fund Max's mission, Klamath County. Turning back over to you, Jessica or
Hey,
Alfonso.
thank you. I can go ahead and do this one, Alfonso, give you some time to come back. The next organization that you are going to be evaluating, I just want to be part of this group so bad, that you all are going to be evaluating is Red is the Road to Wellness for Klamath County. Would anyone like to declare a conflict of interest at this time?
I would like to declare a conflict of interest. I will mute myself and mute you guys and turn off my camera.
Sounds good, Sabrina. We'll let you know in the chat when it's time for you to come back.
I'm going to sign off now for my 11 o'clock meeting. I'll be back.
Okay, thank you, Morgan. And just to be clear, because this is a public meeting and so everybody understands, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folks. So we meet subcommittee members, so we meet quorum. We have 1 conflict. So we have 4 voting members, but we have quorum with 5. So. All right, Red is the Road to Wellness in Klamath County. We have obviously 2 reviews here. The first reviewer recommended a partial fund. Second reviewer also recommended a partial fund. Red is the Road to Wellness is applying to provide SUD treatment, peer support, housing, harm reduction, and supported employment. So the full services. You can find their application or the rubrics associated with Red is the Road to Wellness in the Klamath County workbook under Red is the Road tab 1 and Red is the Road tab 2. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the committee. Thank you.
so I read this application. The areas of strength are definitely that they're reflective of the community that they serve. A very diverse staff. They have Prime Plus workers there now. They're already doing the work in this community. I had a question. I want to make sure that's addressed in the contracting, if this is funded. That the wages right now they range from $14 to $28 per hour. I like to see that lower number raised so that everybody has a livable wage for the positions that would be funded there. That's what I got.
Thanks, Zeb.
Zeb, was it clear to you if this was, this funding would like increase services overall, or were they like losing funding and just trying to sustain the program that they have?
Whoops, sorry there. So to me, it would be to sustain the services that they're providing with the hopes of expanding those services, culturally diverse services. And I know that this is already part of it, because it is part of our values, that one area that they would have to address would be they do not currently house transgender, non-binary individuals. So that would like for that to be addressed along with the wages.
I am looking at, oh, whose is this? Shauna McDermott's rubric. I don't know which number that is. And there were just some concerns in harm reduction around how people can access it, and it's not clear. It says harm reduction available upon request, needle exchange upon request. And I don't know if that means that it's an outside agency or if it's that agency. And it just seems a little vague, at least in that rubric.
I'm not sure if they're requesting funding for supported employment, but the supported employment section was a little bit confusing. So I'm not sure if they're requesting any funding for that. And then it looks like in the first rubrics, there's, I think it's the one Zeb did. It talks about harm reduction, and it looks like they currently partner with Max's mission. With the biweekly community partnership outreach, and it says along with several other programs in the Klamath County. So I'm guessing their budget doesn't really specifically clarify on harm reduction supplies, or I'm not sure if they're even requesting money for harm reduction. And then there was some concerns in the SUD, excuse me, section about the provider that they provide services but are not an OHA certified outpatient treatment center at this time. So I'm wondering if OHA would be working with them to make them a provider. That's all I have.
I think based on the rubrics, there's not enough information for supported employment. And I don't know if that means we would need to parking lot the whole application, or if people would just feel comfortable not funding supported employment. But there's definitely not enough information for me to feel comfortable in that section.
How would you feel about the harm reduction section?
I'd be a little curious about the budget, because it sounds like, so they have Prime Plus care workers that maybe join up with Max's mission to provide additional like peer support and support for folks engaging in harm reduction. But it does sound like the supplies may mostly come from Max's mission. I don't know if I'm reading it right, but when it says they will, do needle exchange on request, I'm thinking they may have a small amount of supplies, but maybe are not like, cannot fully service folks on their own. I'm not really sure what their other supplies are. I don't know if it's broken down. I'm going to check, see if I can find anything else. So I did see that it looks like they're stating that they would need to purchase an additional property that's separate in order to, and secure in order to ensure safety. And I think that might be referring to LGBTQ, et cetera, plus folks, but I'm not positive on that. That's how it reads to me. So that's, if they don't get funding for another property, they're saying they can't be in alignment with Measure 110. At least that's how I'm processing it. I'm also not clear. It says they require abstinence for their housing program, but it says they have emergency beds, and I don't know if abstinence is required for those as well. So Zeb, I noticed that you had a recommendation for partial, and I'm wondering like how you would define partial funding, or the parts that you think should be funded.
Yeah, I put partial funding. My concern with the SUD services would be that I would want them working to get OHAs certified. To have a solid plan in place for that to happen. And then there was a question of the lack of details in the supported employment. So my thoughts were approving this application as it comes to peers, housing and harm reduction. That was my thoughts on that. You know, I feel that this application is strong when it comes to the culturally and linguistically specific services and impacting the communities most impacted by the war on drugs.
I definitely think that there are elements that are strong, and the peer support sounds like it's the strongest. I'm just thinking, if we fund them for harm reduction and their harm reduction is really essentially the peers that we're funding, supporting a syringe exchange, I wouldn't count that as harm reduction. I mean, they would still be funded to do that thing, but it's just, it's not super clear, like how much direct service they're really doing would be my thought. And I know very little about substance use disorder treatment in terms of like being certified and being able to bill. And so like, that's kind of over my head in terms of like, is it sustainable for a program to not bill long-term? Like, I don't know.
And that would be my my concern, and why the goal would be for them to be self-sufficient, would be for them to be an OHA certified provider. I think that's the goal for all our people that we're funding, to be able to be self-sufficient, and when the grant, if it does go away at some point, be able to carry on. I did have a question, Blue. When it comes to Prime Plus workers, can you give us a little more information on what a Prime Plus worker does?
Yes, and I see why you're asking me. So I've worked with Prime Plus peers, and so my understanding is that they're all certified peers, certified through one of the state programs, and they actually do use a harm reduction approach. And a lot of their trainings really try to integrate truly meeting people where they're at, which at least locally is not always the case with peer support programs. And so that's been something that's, I think they're in 20 something counties out of the 36. And so they've definitely been able to expand peer support and harm reduction in counties that previously just didn't have any of that. So it's definitely a valuable program. And I know that they also really try to, make sure that the peers are reflective of the communities they're serving as well. Yeah, it's probably, I guess, maybe like technically the biggest peer program I know about in terms of their reach. I don't know anything about how they're funded though. That's beyond my level.
Just wanted to chime in here again that, you know, it is in the Senate bill that you can't supplant funding. So if you did want to fund one thing or the other, just know that there is a check there that supplanting is not happening.
Yeah, I do. I guess I have heard a little bit about like some programs are going to be losing funding through Prime Plus. I don't know if this one is. I don't think I saw that in this particular budget, but yes, obviously, like I would be supportive, assuming that they are not trying to supplant as well. Yeah, I guess I'm just concerned about housing for trans and non-binary individuals. If they're saying that they need another building that's maybe not in the budget in order to be able to do that, then I don't know what it would mean for us to fund housing without funding that.
One other budget, I requested a budget narrative on them. The majority of what they're asking for would be for a purchase and renovate. With the staffing being less or equal to, I think it was like $500,000 is roughly what they're asking for the housing. That was a concern with that price. When it comes to the staffing part, I felt the budget was very reasonable. Just wanting an increase and make sure there was livable wages. And actually, as I look at the rubric now, it's 680,000 for the capital outlay cost.
I'm open to partially funding this organization, excluding supported employment and harm reduction, and then making sure that they are providing livable wages to their staff. I'm open to that.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Leticia, getting it rolling. Okay, so we are noting your concerns about the wages and ensuring that they are licensed or become licensed. So we're noting those. So it sounds like maybe Leticia, I don't know if that was a motion, but it's, I just lost everyone. Of course I
We
did.
can make it a motion, but it'll just be the same. Yeah, so I make a motion to partially fund. I forget the name of the organization.
Red
To
is
partially red is the road. So to partially fund red is the road, excluding the supported employment and excluding harm reduction and making sure that they're providing livable wages to their staff.
All right. Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion from Leticia to fund, partially fund Red is the Road to Wellness for housing, peer support, and SUD treatment, ensuring that that employees are earning a livable wage. Was that correct? All right, we also have a second from Blue. Any more discussion? All right, Walter, it's all you.
All right. So let's go with Nicole. How do you vote? Oh, I don't see Nicole. Okay. Zeb?
Yes.
Okay. Blue?
Yes.
Leticia?
Yes.
Oh. And there's no Nicole. And there's a conflict with Sabrina. So right now we're at 3. So since
Okay, so we do not have enough voting members. We have quorum, but we do not have
we don't
enough
have, yeah, you're right.
voting members, yeah, in attendance to actually make this vote. I did not, and I apologize, I did not see that Nicole had come off. So if we have 1, 2, 3, if we only have 3 votes, that we do have quorum with Sabrina, even though there's a conflict, but we don't have enough voting members. So can someone, hold on, let me try to reach out to Nicole and find out if it's just a tech thing. Oh, sorry, I just received a text 1 minute ago that said Nicole has to jump off until noon. So we cannot take this vote. We're going to have to table this. All right. And if anybody has any more conflicts, we're going to have to table those organizations. Okay, just FYI. So can I get a Leticia, can you amend your motion to table?
Yeah, so I will amend my motion to table partially funding Red is the Road to Wellness.
Okay, so if we can just get the table, because
We don't need to second it or vote on the table. We're good.
yeah, we're gonna second it.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, well, if I need to second it, then I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table from Leticia to table, I should have used table there twice, to table Red is the Road to Wellness in Klamath County until we have enough voting members. Blue seconded that. Can we get a vote on that, Walter?
yes. So Zeb, how do you
Yes.
vote? Okay, to table. Okay, oops, excuse me, just 1 sec. Okay, Blue, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Leticia,
Yes.
okay. All right. We've got 3 votes to table this for Red is the Road to Wellness, Klamath County. And I'll turn it back over to you, Jessica.
All right, so just recognizing, recognizing Zeb.
Thank you. And when Nicole comes back, are we going to be able to revisit that tabled motion?
If we get another voting member that is not Sabrina, we can go ahead and look at that, because we're only tabling it due to the lack of voting members. So it's not like you all requested more information. So we're good to go there. Yes. And we're about an hour out from our last break, correct? Are we?
Yes.
Okay.
So can I just tell Sabrina she can come back?
Yeah, I was just about to text her, but if you want to text her, that's great. And you put it in the chat. So thank you so much. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and take a y'all want 5 or 10 minutes? 10. I see a lot of 10s. 10s. Okay, let's do a 10-minute break. Let's come back in 10 minutes. And thank you all. Welcome back, Sabrina.
Did you say we're taking a break for 10 minutes?
Yes,
Yes.
a 10-minute break. Yep.
Welcome back. All right, who do we have back? We have Walter. We have Isra. We have Sabrina. We have Leticia. We have Blue. I think I missed a thumbs up. Was that a thumbs up from Zeb? Oh, and Jess. Hi, Jess. Creeping into lunchtime. Gina, hi. So I know we heard from Blue. We're just waiting for Zeb. Hi, Sydney. Yay.
Jessica, did you see that message from Alfonso?
Oh, yes. Yep. I was just waiting for Zeb and I was going to make that announcement. There he is. Hi, Zeb. All right. So just an FYI to the group, Alfonso is jumping off and I'm jumping in. So you have me for the rest of this. Sorry. All right. So I think we have everyone back. Please, somebody correct me if I am mistaken. And we can go Sydney with the crying emoji. And everyone's kind of trying to get some lunch and totally cool. Totally understand. If you don't want to be on camera, that's fine. The next, so we're still in Klamath County. The next organization for you all to consider is the Stronghold. If we have anyone with a conflict of interest, would you please declare it now?
I am Sabrina and I have a partial conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest. So I'm still allowed to vote. Just so you know.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. So we have Sabrina, Zeb, Leticia, Blue. So that's 4 people. So we have quorum and we have enough voting members present. Correct, Walter?
Mm-mm.
No.
Nope. We
We'll
only
have
have 4.
same
We only have,
problem we had last time.
yeah, because
Well,
we have
no.
one.
Because we have Sabrina who's going to be voting this time. Sabrina has a potential conflict of interest, therefore she can still vote.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Good. We got it. Because this gets a little tricky with just a few members. So we're getting it done here. I'm gonna real quick. Okay. So we have again, we're gonna look at the Stronghold. The Stronghold has 2 recommendations, obviously. One, the first recommendation is yes. The second recommendation is yes. The Stronghold is applying to provide SUD treatment, peer support, housing, and harm reduction for Klamath County. Wait, hold on. I'm in the, yep, no, I'm right. Okay. SUD treatment, peer support, housing, and harm reduction in Klamath County. You can find the evaluations for the Stronghold in your Klamath County workbook. The tabs are the Stronghold 1 and the Stronghold 2. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the subcommittee. And just reminding everyone, votes have to be unanimous because we only have 4 people.
I noticed on the rubrics, it says they don't have any certified alcohol and drug counselors, but they're checking off to get funded for SUD services.
I saw that too, Zeb, and that it sounds like, they provide a lot of support that's culturally specific, but I don't know that that would necessarily fall under treatment. But it does sound like they do have strong peer support that is culturally specific. And I really like that part of their application.
I agree.
Yeah, I
with
feel
that.
like they have a strong peer support section. I really like that. And then their supported employment. Excuse me, it says their application reports they provide immediate access and support for individuals seeking employment, like technical assistance, help with resumes, filling out applications, practicing job interviews, and clothing. I feel good about their supported employment section. Harm reduction, it looks like they're working with Max's mission and their drop-in center, but they have things like first aid kits, wound supplies, syringe exchange, naloxone, safe drug supplies, and more. And I'm not sure about their SUD section, but their peer section seemed really strong.
So I didn't notice this until now, but we're on the stronghold, correct? I just want to make sure I'm not like, okay.
Yeah.
So the other person, Shauna, that reviewed them did not fill out the supported employment. So I would be hesitant to vote on that just because I'm thinking maybe they mentioned employment support, but I'm not clear that they applied for funding for that. If that makes sense. Sabrina, sorry if I cut in front of you.
No, you didn't. I was just gonna say the same thing. I feel uncomfortable. Well, obviously, there's enough information for one evaluator to see that the SUD portion was, like complete, and the other one to not be complete at all with that and this supported employment. So I would lean more towards the housing and the peer support. And then also I had a couple of questions about the housing for the gender inclusivity. It doesn't really give any kind of details about what that looks like. And then my other question would be, are they providing the harm reduction, or is Max's mission supplying the harm reduction service element and the supplies?
I saw a comment on one of the rubrics that they were asking for a very small amount for harm reduction supplies, but well, I guess no, that's per month, but it's definitely still a small budget, but I did see the question in one of the rubrics saying that it sounds more like they're just providing the peer support and Max's mission is doing harm reduction. So if that is the case, then it wouldn't make sense to fund them in harm reduction because we wouldn't really be honoring, the fact that we're trying to fund comprehensive harm reduction programs. But hard to tell without the budget or further specifications.
And that would be a no on the SUD services. They describe Stronghold, a culturally responsive peer support program that provides culturally relevant healing practices to peer delivered services. So that'd be a no on for me on the SUD.
And I would be in agreement with that too.
Yeah, I think their peer program is really strong, and essentially that's what they were describing in the SUD section is their peer program. And I definitely think that should be funding, and their housing looks like they do try to have a variety of types of housing.
And I just wanted to ask that is this housing and care services open to all people, or is it?
I saw a couple notes on that, and one of the notes that I saw was that they consider their housing to be low barrier, but again, like that can be different. It does say that they will refer people to the warming center or temporary housing for people who to stay for a night with no requirement of sobriety. So it sounds like they're okay with Matt, but possibly not with relapse. It does say they have a 3-step warning system to address relapse, which sounds a little bit more flexible than some of the other applications we've seen where they're like immediately removed.
And another part of the rubric says that they provide tents and stuff like that for people for outside.
I mean, that can be housing for some people. But I'm not sure if they provide the tents because they won't let people inside of a building if they're using substances. I also see one of the rubrics had a concern around wanting clarification whether there's an expense for rent because the budget just includes utilities and supplies. And one of part of Measure 110 is that people will not have to pay for any of the services. So I guess they just wanted clarification that there's not an expense.
Sabrina, did you have a comment? Sorry. Or Leticia?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that if we were not to fund the supported employment section of this application, my concern is that there is not supported employment support in the county if we were to not fund them in the supported employment section.
We could do a direct award to another organization or maybe to them. And I don't know again, because one of the rubrics reads as though they didn't apply for that. So I wouldn't feel comfortable funding them. Jessica?
Yeah, so just real quick, first I want to get Morgan up to speed, and then I kind of want to address what seems to be happening here. So Morgan, hi, welcome back. So good to see you. We are in Klamath County, and we are on the Stronghold application. And so it seems like there is a bit of a discrepancy in the rubrics here. And so if the subcommittee would like, this could be a situation, well, any situation could be a situation, but this could be a situation where we table this and ask for the actual application if you wanted to. So I just want to throw that out, that is always an option, and just because there seem to be a lot of questions. So I just want to put that out there, and welcome Morgan back.
Thank you so much. Yeah, just from what little I've heard, I would definitely want to read this rubric. I mean, not the rubric, read the actual application.
So I read this application. I'm trying to find it to pull up to get some information off of it. If you guys can just bear with me a second.
Oh,
Thanks,
Zeb,
Sam.
we can bear with you.
My desktop rearranged itself on its own, so I'm looking for some icons here.
Just want to call out that Sabrina is coming back. I think Sabrina got kicked out and was in the waiting room. So let's find out when Sabrina gets back. Sabrina, what's the last thing you heard? Just to make sure you're caught up. Sorry, I didn't even see you get kicked out there.
It's okay. The last thing we were talking about was whatever we were talking about right after I said something about the tents. And then I was going to ask, I raised my hand about is this services, the diversity, is it for Native Americans or open to all people?
And to just get you up to speed here, I acknowledge that there's some discrepancy in the rubrics here. It looks like depending on the way the reviewer read the application, they either, they saw some different things, and so there's a discrepancy here, and that this is definitely something that either y'all can table. I just wanted to remind you all that you could do that and request the application. And then Zeb so kindly, even with a rearranged desktop and everything, has read this application and currently has it. So he has offered to find some information for the group. So that's just your quick recap. Back to you.
So, I mean, that's cool. People want to table it and read the application itself to get more information. Also, I will say that they did apply for supported employment for sure. And so that's reflective on my rubric that I filled out. And Sabrina, what was your question on if housing was open to everyone?
Yeah, if their services were open to everybody, just because in the diversity and inclusion, it was a heavy emphasis on Native Americans and working with the Klamath tribe and the smudging and everything to that magnitude. And sometimes it's encouraged for outsiders and sometimes people take a hard stance against it. So I just wanted to know what this application idea was.
So Sabrina, do you feel like you can understand that information without reading the application?
What was everybody else's thoughts?
Well, I guess if they are applying for supported employment, I don't feel like I have enough information. I mean, there's good information in the one rubric, but if the other one's not filled out, then I would want to take a deeper look, just so we're not missing an opportunity to fund, a program that might be really helpful in that area.
I would like to see everybody comfortable with voting on this thing. So I don't think it's a bad idea for us to get the application for those that haven't read it to review.
So is that a motion, Zeb?
Yeah, how would I word that motion?
Well, you could word it just to table. So to make a motion to table the stronghold in Klamath County to allow, further review.
I'd like to make a motion to table the stronghold application for now, so we can get the application to review.
Awesome. Thank you, Zeb. So we have a motion from Zeb to table this.
second.
And we have a second from Leticia. What? All right, Walter.
Oh, any further discussion? All right. Okay, a motion to table this. And Sabrina, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Zeb, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. And Blue?
Yes.
Thank you. Leticia?
Yes.
And, oops. And Morgan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. So that passes for motion to be tabled for stronghold for further review. Klamath County. Pass it back to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Walter. And just an FYI, that application is in your emails for review. Sydney is amazing. Okay. So the next organization that you are going to consider, not me, is Klamath Basin Behavioral Health. Is there anyone who would like to declare a conflict with Klamath Basin Behavioral Health? Hearing none. Klamath Basin Behavioral Health has two recommendations. The first is yes to fund. The second is to fund partially. Klamath Basin Behavioral Health has applied to provide SUD treatment and peer support in Klamath County. Their evaluations can be found in your Klamath County workbook. And the tabs are Klamath Basin BH1 and Klamath Basin BH2. And with that, I'll throw it back to the committee.
So I'd like to hear from Leticia and Sabrina what you guys thought about these applications.
I'll go first. There was a lot of overlap of wanting to employ people that weren't like historically, since the implementation of ballot measure 110, who was covered under our funding. There was a lot of QMHAs, different kind of there's a lot of budget line items that were very questionable if it was in alignment with what we're doing. And then when they talk about sobering station, they talk about mental health and substance use interchangeably, and they don't, or they use the word behavioral health with no specificity of what does that mean? Is that substance use? Is that substance use disorder? Is that alcohol? Is that mental health? What is a lapse in their definition compared to what it is in our definition? And then there was many budget line items that were not, I don't think we're in alignment with what we're doing. There was some good stuff, but there would be a lot of need of some clarification on their end during contract process to ensure that it was happening in the spirit of Measure 110.
Thanks, Sabrina. I liked their application, and I'm going to pull up the budget in a second, but I like their peer support. They applied for peer support services and SUD funding. And one thing that I liked about their peer support is that they have mental health peer support specialists and then the SUD peer support specialists. And I like their SUD section, but I'll pull up the budget and kind of look at some of the concerns that Sabrina had.
And if I can just jump in real quick, I think they had 3 different pages of budgets. 3 different Excel documents.
I'm curious about the sobering center. I really just imagine things, but I don't really know what that is, if they exist in other areas. And it just, to me, like, it makes me think that if they're just kind of letting people sit while they're coming off drugs, but there's no like medical support, like that sounds dangerous for certain substances. And I'm just not really clear on what that is or how it works.
I agree, Blue, and it was kind of, it didn't really specify that they were going to take people in that were that used substances or had substance use disorder, and that they were going to bring them in and walk them through the framework of recovery and what that would look like. And it didn't really paint that picture. I guess what I'm trying to say is it didn't define what sobering in their definition exactly is.
I saw in one of the rubrics that they wanted to get funding for an additional 6 CADCs, which sounds like a huge immediate growth. And I'm not clear if that's who staffs the sobering center, but that's, increasing by 6 all at once sounds like I don't know that they're going to have people to work with again, unless maybe it's for the sobering center.
That's definitely very ambitious with the workforce shortage we have right now.
So I'm looking at their budget right now, and they do, Sabrina, you're right, Klamath County, on right now. The Klamath Basin Behavioral Health has 3 tabs under their budget. And the first tab goes over like their full burn funding request, which would be like a burn network coordinator to oversee all burn activities, data analyst, programmer, and then they are requesting cultural awareness training, which is quarterly. They're requesting money to train their staff. And then the second tab under the budget goes into the personnel costs, like they are requesting for a sobering technician, a screener, a QMHA, CADC1, two of those positions, and then a supervisor to oversee the staff. as well as the CADC education for the person that they hire on at their sobering location. And then the other thing that they're requesting in the third tab is for peer training. So they're requesting stipend for 10 attendees to train peers, 10 peers, and that's on a quarterly basis as well. And it includes like their background checks, the MACBO licensing, tuition for peer support certification, and travel expenses for those people training to be peers.
Yeah, definitely. I would be comfortable funding part of it, but that's 40 peers a year if I can do the math correctly. And then also, we still don't know what definition they're going by sobering station. We don't know if they're trying to hire a workforce just for ballot measure 110, because if they are, woo-hoo, let's do that. But if their sobering station idea and our idea is totally different, then we don't really know what we're funding without that definition. Like I said, for the parts that do have clarity of what they're looking for, I would be comfortable partially funding them for those services.
Are they currently providing any SUD treatments at a different capacity, or is this all just what they want to expand to?
It was a little hard to decipher for me in the application because they're talking about different service, like, different spectrums of their service. But from what I can gather from this is that they're focusing on one section. So that kind of got diluted in the application of where they provide those services at, and if that's what they're going to continue to try to do.
So looking at their application, it says that they provide outpatient substance use disorder treatment for adults and adolescents, including the screening, comprehensive assessment, individual counseling, recovery groups, peer support, and treatment planning. And in addition, they offer the voluntary sobering services 24/7, 365 days a year.
And my question would be, with all of those services that Leticia just said, are those going to be taking place at the sobering station in which they're seeking the funding? Or are there two different aspects?
Sabrina, what do you think we would have to do to remedy that question?
I think would just be during contract, ask them and make sure that the funding that they're receiving, which I know that from Jessica's reiteration, that they will make sure that that funding is being used at that location for what Measure 110 funds is intended for. I would just also like them to make sure that what they can clarify what sobering station is, because like I said, I don't think I understand what that means in this context. But with all of that clarity, like I said, I know there's some service elements we won't be able to fund because honestly, in my opinion, I don't think it's follows under Chapter 944 rules or the Senate bill or ballot measure 110. And so I think no matter what, even at its best, it can only be partial. So on my end, everything would need to come out during contract no matter what.
So would you be comfortable in approving this application for SUD and peer services? And then in the contracting, that stuff get worked out?
I would be in agreement with that.
Leticia, is that the same for you? Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to fund, sorry, Alexa just turned on.
You can invite friends and family to share photos to your home screen.
Okay, I can't say, I was gonna say I just turned Alexa off, but she's gonna turn back on. I make a motion to fund Klamath Basin Behavioral Health application for Klamath County for SUD services and peer services.
I second that.
Thank you, Zeb and Sabrina. So we have, am I still muted? Can you hear me? Oh, my screen kept saying I was muted. I don't know. Okay, so let me get it back together here. So we have a motion on the floor from Zeb to fund Klamath Basin Behavioral Health for SUD and peer support. We have a second from Sabrina. Any more discussion? Hearing none.
I'm just confused about the sobering center. Really, I'm not even clear if it currently exists or or what happens there, but that would be my only concern. I feel like I don't have a problem supporting their peer support program. But I'm not clear on what the sobering center is. And like I said, I don't know if that's something that is common in other counties. It just sounds a little dangerous to me.
All right, sounds like we have, or it looks like we have Sabrina.
No, Blue, I totally agree because there's no context of what that looks like. And so from what I read from the application is it's something it's already in place, but they're looking for money to sustain it. And so I don't know what that looks like. And I don't know really what, that's what I don't understand. I don't understand what the sobering station was. So I was hoping that in the contract process, they can figure that out. And then the KBBH can decide if that's an alignment or they're going to accept the funding, if OHA is going to give them the funding after they figure out what exactly it is and exactly what they do. And that kind of sounds backwards, but.
Thanks, Sabrina. So it sounds like, so we have a motion to fund peer support and SUD. It sounds like there are some concerns around the sobering center. I think you all have the ability to do whatever you want, but really I see two paths here. The first path is to, we can take that concern as we're taking all of your concerns and forward that through. Or I think in this case, because it is such a tangible thing, you could say you don't want to fund the sobering station. If that's what you want. Or we can table it, we can get you the application and you can read that through. Well, I guess that's three paths. Morgan.
Sorry, I'm eating lunch here. When I read sobering station, that does have a meaning for me. That is like a evidence-based practice. They just had to close the one down here in Portland, actually. So it was terminated. But it's like, I just heard concerns about its dangerousness, and it's quite like the opposite of that. It's instead of bringing people to jail and like throwing them in the drunk tank of a jail, it's typically an alternative to that. And it's usually law enforcement derived. And then they had the van here in Portland that would go pick people up and take them to the sobering station, where there are technicians on duty who are tracking people's vital signs and making sure that they're okay. And that this is actually a very, very positive health intervention when compared to the alternative intervention, which is typically jail. But they didn't provide any detail. So I'm just using my definition of sobering station that's based off of what I saw how it operate here in Portland, and I have no idea if that translates. but I do believe that that would come out in contracting.
Thank you, Morgan. Sabrina, you had your hand up next.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a beautiful idea and perfect alignment with ballot measure 110 if that's exactly what they considered a sobering station and exactly the forward motion they were going to take with the funding, but we won't know and we don't know. So I think a risk we can take is if you guys want to read the applications, one way not to fund them or to make sure they have clarity in the contract process that that's what they're going to do.
Thank you, Sabrina. Leticia?
Yeah, just speaking on what Morgan was just speaking about. I know that the organization I work for has a sobering facility and it operates just as Morgan had explained, and it actually works in conjunction with the detox facility. And I know what the staffing looks like there. And so if they're already operating a sobering station, then I assume that it was already something that was that they're running it with the staff that's necessary. And maybe it's just like they're wanting to expand it or it's a funding thing. But I definitely understand your point, Sabrina, where you would want more clarity in order to really understand and make sure that it's in alignment with Measure 110.
And I was just gonna clarify, when I said that I was concerned it was dangerous, I didn't see any medical staff listed for the sobering center. And in addition to fentanyl contamination, there are a lot of other drugs contaminating the supply, like veterinary tranquilizers, benzodiazepines. And my concern was that there are people who may need medical help, even with alcohol, if they're dependent, a detox or, a sobering, whatever, without like medical staff sounds like a bad idea. And that's why I've been asking what this is, because I really don't know. And so that's where my concern was.
I agree with you, Blue, and I don't know if in the budget they did ask for like one kind of medical staff, but also in the budget narrative, there was a lot of information of outside costs that didn't really seem like it was in alignment with ballot measure 110, but I'm open at this point.
So, I mean, I would vote to fund it on the off chance, if it is like Cheers, if it is similar to the Portland version, that would be considered in alignment with ballot measure 110 and our rules as they went through contracting. And if it's not, it won't get money. But I would like the opportunity to fund it, especially if it does meet that very evidence-based model that was operated by Central City Concern here in Portland for many years.
Is that a motion, Morgan?
No, it's engaging the climate.
Did we already have a motion on the table? I want to say we had one already. This was just discussion. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
There is a motion to fund Klamath Basin Behavioral Health for SUD and peer services. Sabrina has seconded. Zeb made the motion. Sorry, Walter.
No, thank you. Very, very bad at multitasking. I'm going to stop trying to do that now. Thank you.
It seems like we're ready to vote. Okay, Sabrina, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Okay. Zeb?
Yes.
Okay. Blue?
Yes.
Okay. Leticia,
Yes.
and Morgan.
Yeah.
Okay. The vote passes with 5 to fund Klamath Basin Behavioral Health in Klamath County. And I'll turn it back over to you, Jessica.
Thank you, Walter, and thank you, team, for catching that. Really appreciate it. Okay. So the next organization that you are going to consider, I'm gonna get rid of that "we" in my vocabulary, is Lutheran Community Services in Klamath County. If someone would like to declare a conflict of interest, please do so now. Hearing none. Lutheran Community Services has applied to provide SUD treatment, peer support, and harm reduction in Klamath County. You can find their evaluations in your Klamath County workbook under Lutheran 1 and the Lutheran 2 tabs. And, oh, I forgot one part, didn't I? 2 reviews. We have 2 recommendations. One was yes to fund, and one was partial. And with that, I will turn it back to the subcommittee.
One thing I just got to say off of one of the rubrics is it says they're a laboratory for culturally diversity training and peer support. So that's a real catcher.
Typos are a fact of life for sure, especially in Excel, because it doesn't do a great job of telling you when there's a typo. We've seen some cute ones, just FYI.
I actually like what they said because it's a laboratory that they're creating. Like they say that from what I understand from it, is that they're a laboratory for creating diversified workforce.
I was one of the evaluators on this application, and I believe I said yes to fund it. The only thing I wanted to mention is that they'd requested in their budget funding for some mental health, like a mental health clinician and 2 mental health associates, and then 2 CADC supervisors. And I thought that some of those positions, I didn't know if that fell necessarily under Measure 110, the mental health positions.
I guess my question would be if the individuals that the mental health provider is seeing have a SUD diagnosis, would that be something that we would fund?
And that was my hesitation in this application too, because if we haven't been doing it historically, paying for qualified mental health QMHAs or QMHAPs in our rubrics, then it would feel kind of uncomfortable for myself to say that now at this point. I believe that they do have some good elements, but I agree also that it would be a partial funding for me. And they do have, just thinking off the top of my head, they do have a plan to hire a diversified and bilingual workforce, and I think even a youth peer support for their organization.
Thanks, Sabrina. Blue?
So I liked that I saw in one of the rubrics that they wanted to expand for substance use treatment for youth and for the Latinx community. And to nobody's surprise, I'm concerned about the harm reduction section. It talks about a drug take back kiosk, which is like maybe adjacent to harm reduction. I don't know, but it's also stating that they're going to develop a new needle exchange program. And I'm not sure what kind of experience they have with working with this population already. But we we did, I think, oh no, are we in it? I think we funded another needle exchange program in this county already that's been doing existing work. And so I would just also be concerned, like it doesn't, it sounded like they just weren't exactly clear on how they defined harm reduction. There was also a concern about using funding for Narcan, and there is the harm reduction clearinghouse, which is an option, but other than that, I wouldn't have a problem funding Narcan only because the amounts that my clients go through are not the amounts that you can get through a pharmacy through OHP because of how frequently people are overdosing. People often need more than 2 doses, but it didn't sound like it was a very strong or comprehensive plan for harm reduction, especially because it sounds like they're branching into that.
Thanks, Blue. Sabrina.
Yeah, I read over that section about harm reduction multiple times because it does say they're going to be referring out. I don't believe, I didn't see in the budget where they were seeking supplies. I've counted only a few sentences in the harm reduction section, even talking about standing up the needle exchange, like they threw that sentence in there maybe once or twice, but with no follow throughout the rest of the section. So that would be a section that in a service element, I would not feel comfortable funding. And then also for the rest of the budget, there are like, I don't know how many budget lines that I would not feel comfortable funding as well.
I feel like their substance use treatment seems pretty comprehensive. They have different types of supports available, including medication. And I honestly didn't pay attention to the other organizations that offer medication. I did see another application where an organization referenced that they use or refer to this program when clients do need medication. Oh, I don't know if we're supposed to be able to consider that. I'm sorry.
No, you can absolutely consider,
Okay.
yeah, yep.
I think it was part of like maybe a group application. I'm not sure, but okay.
Definitely okay to consider that an organization provides medication assisted treatment or recovery, however you want to say.
So are we maybe thinking just fund them for that, if that's what they do and do well? I'm always super concerned when I see drug takebacks in a harm reduction section. That tells me that you might not fully understand what that means.
And then also I had, sorry, just for jumping in there, I had a little bit of confusion if peer support's only tied to substance use disorder treatment. I know it does have other sections for outreach and engagement as well.
Sabrina.
I raised my hand this time. One of my questions in my own rubric that I completed because I evaluated this application was the time frame to get a peer support and then the engagement level. Like, is it low barrier? What does that look like?
After the discussion that we've had, I make a motion to fund their SUD part of their program. for Lutheran Community Services.
I
I would
second
feel-
that.
Okay.
All right, so,
Go ahead.
oh, no. I said that I'm gonna step back. Is there
Oh, I was just
something?
gonna ask if we could have discussion, but then that was probably what you're gonna say, Jessica.
No, it's okay. Let's have
Um,
discussion. Yes.
I just, I saw a note and I'm not sure whose rubric, that just that there was a concern around the mental health staffing for some of their services. I'm gonna have to find it again. Sorry. Sabrina.
Sorry, it's super hard for me to toggle back and forth, but yeah, they did have an ask in their budget for that as well. You're right, Blue.
I'll just say for myself, as a provider, that I have no problem funding a mental health position that sees people with SUD disorders as well. It's best practice to have concurrent care for both mental health and SUD.
I think it would totally be great in some context, but my apprehension's always a couple of things about not wanting to do qualified mental health therapist, or is there another funding source that they can tap into besides ballot measure 110, like Oregon Health Plan or other insurance companies?
Yeah, I mean, it's a billable service, so it could be funded through OHP. I mean, same could also be said for certified alcohol and drug counselors.
All right, any further discussion with the motion on the table? We ready to vote?
Yeah, I do have more discussion. I just wanted to make sure I understood that the vote was to fund SUD and not to fund the qualified or the mental health aspects. Are we in that they're gonna modify the budget towards the end for what's in alignment? Is that what we're voting on?
So
My
Leticia,
motion- Yeah. Go ahead. Okay. Yeah, my motion was to fund SUD. If you feel more comfortable with me excluding the mental health associate position and the mental health provider, I can do that. I figured that that would come out and later down the road as Oregon OHA is doing, like, contracting with them and discussing their requests, that if we are able to fund that because it doesn't fall in alignment with measure 110, then that it would not be funded.
Okay, thank you, Leticia. I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Thank you, and I'm ready to vote.
Okay.
All right,
so it sounds like, do you want to read the motion, Walter, or shall I?
go ahead.
So Leticia made a motion to fund Lutheran Community Services. Is that correct, Leticia?
The SUD portion
The
of
SUD
it, so partially fund it.
Okay, so we have a motion from Leticia to fund the SUD service or to fund, I'm sorry, we have a motion on the table from Leticia to fund Lutheran Community Services for SUD treatment. And who seconded that?
Zeb.
That was Zeb. That's what I thought. Okay. So we have a second from Zeb. We had discussion. Now we're going to turn over to Walter.
Okay. Sabrina, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Okay. Zeb,
Yes.
Blue,
Yes.
okay. Leticia,
Yes.
okay. Morgan,
Yes.
okay. That vote passes to fund the SUD portion of Lutheran Community Services in Klamath County. And I'll turn it back to you, Jessica.
Thank you. The next organization that you all are going to consider is Transformations in Klamath County. Would anyone like to declare conflict? Hearing none. We have two recommendations. One is yes to fund, one is to fund partially. Transformations is applying to provide SUD treatment, peer support, and housing in Klamath County. To find the transformation reviews, please go to the Transformation 1 and Transformation 2 tabs in your Klamath County workbook. Committee.
If I leave, are we still at quorum? I have the alcohol and drug policy meeting at 1, and I would just really love a 15-minute break in between my multiple hour meetings.
So if you were to leave, Morgan, that would leave us with Leticia, Zeb, Sabrina, and Blue. That
So we
would,
just,
go
we
ahead.
couldn't vote for the one that was tabled though. I think that's
That is correct.
okay.
If I leave.
If you
Yeah, but
leave.
we're not even on that, so
Okay.
it's probably fine. We can probably just come back to the other application tomorrow or.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow. Okay, I just need to rest my brain for 15 minutes away from the screen before my next meeting.
Totally understand that feeling, Morgan.
All right.
Rest.
Okay, bye.
All right, so we still have 4 members and 4 voting members. We have quorum. We can vote.
So I like that they are planning to increase residential capacity by 25 beds and 8 beds to detox. I have a feeling that's probably needed in the area. It's needed everywhere.
Sabrina.
Yeah, I was one of the evaluators on this application, and one of the reasons I put partial is because I'm gonna say numbers because I need to say numbers. They have a $5 million ask. They're gonna be short 4 to 3 million, even if we give them the amount they're asking in the rubric of the budget. They're still not gonna have enough for that. So that'd be $1 million, and it's not guaranteed they can get the other funding.
Thanks, Sabrina. I just want to call out that this will be the last organization that we can review today. We have one table because that we will not be able to come back to due to our numbers. And next one will in the next county, we won't be able to cover it either. So this will likely be our last one for today. With that Measure 110 team has a hard stop at 1 as well.
Is it okay if I offer some of my input since we have a little bit of time? I wouldn't mind funding them. There's some budget lines in there, like a course that I don't feel comfortable, but budget or funding, and it's already in the rubric. But also some of the things I would like to see them talk to is they say that they have like a culturally diverse, all-inclusive organization, except for sometimes they reference Native American in the white bison curriculum. They don't really talk about how they address any other diversity or other populations outside of that. And so I would really like them to, you know, speak to what their plans for outreach and engagement to be all inclusive would be. And like I said, I would only feel comfortable funding them partially because some of the asks we couldn't even with our funding, they couldn't complete the goal that they're looking for. And it's not promised.
Thanks, Sabrina.
Thank you, Sabrina. And so they're applying for SUD treatment, peer services, and housing, right?
Correct. Correct. Sorry, I don't know. Oh, okay. Correct, Zeb.
I'll just say that I'd feel comfortable moving forward, funding all of those, and then having the concerns that Sabrina's talking about reconciled in the contracting portion. I'm not sure how everybody else is feeling right now about it.
I did see some notes about it being pretty heavy with like a psychiatrist and some mental health staff that I would imagine are also paid a lot of more money than CADCs or other similar positions. And I'm not clear if that was part of the concern, but that's part of my concern. It does seem really heavy with staff that are sort of above the level of what we usually see for these categories.
I know that they're moving towards being a co-occurring facility if they're not already being mental health and substance use disorder.
And another concern I had was the gender affirming. It's kind of, I couldn't clearly understand if they were stating that they do have accommodations and policies and procedures around that, or they do not at this time, or they're not even looking for support in that area at this time. So that's another thing I would like to see addressed, but did you have a motion on the table, Zeb?
No, I was hoping somebody would make that motion.
I'll make the motion. I motion to fund transformations.
We have a motion to fund transformations. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I will throw it. Oh, Zeb?
Yeah, and I think for the mental health question, I think that definitely something that we could probably talk about in the meeting. I mean, 100% confident that OHA is going to be in alignment with Measure 110. I think as a council, we could probably get clarification if that completely excludes mental health counselors. But I'm comfortable moving forward with this motion.
Sounds good. So, oh, Sabrina.
Yeah, because it would be a make it or break it point for me. So I would like to not fund qualified mental health in other, we've had a lot of conversations about it in the meetings and stuff about if it's in alignment, if it's not in alignment, but I'm confident that the staff of OHA during the contract period will be able to sort it out per the wishes in the spirit of Measure 110.
Thank you, Sabrina. And not to speak for the entirety of OHA, but I think that is definitely, what we intend to do is stay within the spirit and the purpose of Measure 110. I also want to acknowledge again that we have some folks in the background furiously taking notes about your concerns that will definitely be passed on. This is not the last place they live. Yeah, just wanted to say that and reiterate that for everyone. So we have a motion. We have a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none.
I just, real quick, I did see that they, and I think they require abstinence for housing. And just wanted to I can't remember if we have housing that is lower barrier in this county, or if that's something that we would need to direct award, but that would just, it wouldn't affect my vote on this, but because it is the last application, I just wanted to make sure that I can't remember what organization was in what county at this point. So that would be my only concern or thought.
We are noting those concerns and thoughts in our notes for sure. Thank you, Blue.
Okay. So motion to fund transformations, Klamath County. And Sabrina, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Zeb?
Yes.
Okay. Blue?
Yes.
And Leticia?
Yes.
Okay. The vote passes with 4 for transformation in Klamath County. I'll turn it back over to you, Jessica.
All right, also just a quick recap. So first of all, a big thank you. We're getting this done. We're getting it rolling. So appreciative of all of you. You're fantastic. You're so thoughtful. You're really putting your hard work into this, and you have from the very beginning. And so thank you for that. So we have not finished with Klamath County. We will be coming back to our tabled organization at the beginning of tomorrow. We also did not get to Wallowa County. So we will be starting there tomorrow. Sydney has sent out the application that you all asked for. Oh yes, 2 tabled organizations. Thank you so much, Sydney. See, what would I do without, it's a team and we work together. For the organization that we tabled because you wanted the application, those have gone out. I just want to ping Blue to please look at your text messages, or I think you may have already, but I was really trying not to multitask so I could hear those motions. And it looks like we have a hand up from Zeb.
And just to state, we also have 2 previous tabled ones too that we'll be addressing at the beginning of next meeting. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Sorry, I should have included those. Leticia.
And I just wanted to let you know, I thought tomorrow's meeting was going to be in the morning like it was, I think, the previous week or the week before, but it isn't. It's in the afternoon. I'm going to be driving in the afternoon, so I won't be at the meeting tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. Blue.
I would just like to say if there's any way we can get the the rubrics next week a little bit earlier. I really need them a little bit earlier than we've been getting them because I'm not in the office every day and it's really hard for me to follow along on a computer. So I like to print these out and I can't always do that with a short turnaround.
Okay, okay. We hear you. We are trying to get those out as early as we can. We really, really are. And apologies that we have come up short sometimes. And also want to acknowledge that, you know, you need the time and the support, you know, to get these reviewed. So yes, hear you. Thank you. So again, let me just real quick say, so we have 2 tabled organizations from Klamath County as well as 3 tabled from previous. So we will start with those 5 organizations tomorrow, and then we will go on to Wallowa and then the other counties that we have slated. So thank you all. I know we all have a hard stop. So please enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and tomorrow is Friday. Let's just leave it on that. Thank you. Bye, y'all.